want to thank everybody for tuning in and watching the first video of the path to JIMLAS coming to fruition. There will be a link at the bottom of this video for those who haven't seen the first video, so you can go check it out. Now, the last thing I said in the first video was what I believe the Lord told us to do, which was get saved, get married, and move. And that's exactly what we did. There was a church right across the street in Mattapan, right across the street from Simcoe's. There was a church. Went across the street at the church, got saved. Then like a year after that, me and my wife got married. Then like a year after that, we ended up moving. Now, I was the type of guy, man, I said, I ain't never leaving Boston. But after this horrific night, you know, it changed the perspective on all of that. So we ended up moving to Greensboro, North Carolina. I mean, we left everything. All the furniture in the house. This is how immediate this was. And even though it took a year, it was like, this is something that I've come to the conclusion that we have to leave. And so we left everything in the house. So we get to Greensboro, and, you know, mind you, okay, I did not know what I was going to Greensboro for. I just was following instructions. So you get to Greensboro, we get to Greensboro not knowing my purpose, not knowing what I'm supposed to do. I get a great job. Everything's kosher. Everything's great. I end up losing the job. Okay, 2 years after I got it, due to a layoff. And it just kind of set me back. It set us back a lot. You know what I mean? So I'm distraught. I'm stressed out a little because I know I believe this is what God wanted us to do. You know, I got my family in a whole nother state. And now it's like this. So I'm driving one day, me and my daughter, and just out of nowhere, when I tell you out of nowhere, as clear as I'm talking to you right now, out of nowhere, I heard JIMLAS. And you know, I heard it for the first time. I ain't really paying no attention to it until I heard it again. Clear. JIMLAS. I heard it so clear that I had to look at my daughter to see if she said it. But she didn't, because she had her headphones on, and so it wasn't her, obviously. This was coming from my mind. So I inquire. You know, I always feared God, even in the projects. Even though I wasn't living for the Lord, I always feared him. You know what I mean? Because, come on, you got to be smart. You got to know that we in this ball in the middle of the universe. You got to know there's a greater being somewhere that did all of this. I don't care what the scientists say. You got to know that this is not created by science. Okay? I'm sitting here now listening, thinking to myself, like, what does JIMLAS mean? So I inquired to my own self, like, what is JIMLAS? I didn't hear nothing, and I inquired again, what's JIMLAS? Then I just heard, Jesus is my Lord and Savior. And I'm like, hold on, let me say it, but let me say it real slow. Jesus is my Lord and Savior. And after saying it a couple of times, when I tell you I was so excited that the acronym matched the wording, that I kept saying it over and over again, just to make sure. Jesus is my Lord and Savior. Jesus is my Lord and Savior. Not knowing I was being delivered in the car from the stress that I was taking on. So I get home. I tell my wife the great news about JIMLAS and how I heard it in my mind. And she was excited. So I still didn't know at this point in time what I was supposed to do with it. So one day, I always did a little hustle on the side of, outside of working. I've always been like that on a small scale. That's just was me. I was doing my music at the same time out in Greensboro. So one day I'm in FedEx Kinko's cutting out some album covers, and a gentleman comes into the store, and he comes directly to me. I'm talking about a beeline. There was quite a few people in the store. He did a beeline straight to me, and he says, who are you? And he asked what I was doing. As a matter of fact, he said, I was led over here to you. And then he asked me what I was doing. So I go into telling him that I'm cutting out the album covers for my CD, blase, blase. He goes into telling me right after I finished telling him that what he did, which was he was a designer, he's screen prints, and therefore this is what he does. So after he finished telling me what he did, I just felt an unction to let him know about JIMLAS and what I experienced in the car with my daughter. Now, why would I have an unction just to tell this man something so random that just happened to me like that? Why would I tell him? There's a lot of people in the store. I ain't telling nobody. The only person I told was my wife. But for some reason, I was led to tell him that. And when I begin to tell him, he pulls out a piece of paper and he starts sketching on it. Boom, he's sketching. Now I'm seeing him sketch, but I don't know what he's doing. You know what I mean? I'm too busy telling him the long version of me losing my job and hearing JIMLAS. So after he finishes, he says to me, let's exchange numbers. I'll give you a call tomorrow, and I'll show you what I'm doing. So I was like, cool. Exchange the numbers, not knowing, I don't know if I'm going to see this man again or even hear from him. But sure enough, he called me, and we set up a meeting to meet, and this is what he drew on the paper. JIMLAS. And I was like, wow. It just blew my mind because, come on, you run into somebody that said he was led to you, and you tell him this phenomenal story, and then this is, he starts sketching, and this is what he shows me the next day. Okay, this was so amazing to me. But even when he did that, I still did not know what to do with it. So I just put two and two together. This man is a screen printer. He's a designer. He sells clothes. Maybe I should start my own clothing line. And that's exactly what I did. I just said, man, I got to put this on everything. It actually grew from just clothes. I want to put it on appliances. I want to put it on everything. And at that time, I did not know, I wasn't even in church. So I didn't know still what was going on. It was like God was just giving me bits and pieces of this phenomenal, extraordinary catalyst. It still blows my mind to this day. But this is how JIMLAS came to fruition.